Welcome to another Media Monsters podcast. I'm Danny Galvez, and that's Jeremy Schreifels, and we're glad you're here. Today's a very, very fun and special episode. It's going to be quick, too. We're going to be moving left and right. So first, I want to say make sure you join our Media Monsters group on Facebook. If you have not done so, there's a great collective, growing community of people that maybe are entrepreneurs, they're solopreneurs, they're people that are authors, speakers, coaches, you name it. There is no limit. We accept anybody and everybody who's enthusiastic about media because the way things are going, every single thing is going to be related and tied to media. You're going to be judged on it. You're going to be sized up as a company next to it based on the things that you do. And that's going to be a whole other episode, but make sure you join us there. If you're listening to the audio version of this, make sure you follow us on YouTube as well too. Subscribe, like, comment, share, tag somebody who needs to see or hear any one of these episodes.
Well, we got not only short, fast, sweet episode for you today. We're just going to slam some tips at you today. We call them the podcast boss tips. Just like these are just like top 20 things that just write them all down or, watch it a few times, listen a few times so you get them all. So we're just going to hit it right off the gate right away. Go for it.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. You're going first.
I'm first? You said number 2. Got it. Oh, number 2 on the
list. We've got
number 1. Please communicate with your podcast co-host so that you make sure that you do a great job on your podcast episodes.
Yes. And we're going to leave this in here because you know why? This is real life. It happens every single day. And, also to our point, you don't have to aim for perfection. Just, if you can get the process of being consistent down and perfect that, you'll win every single time.
You got it. So Here we are with the real actual podcast boss tips. Identify your target audience and create content that caters to their interest and their needs.
So how would you identify your target audience?
Well, I think an easy way to do it is what are some things that you like? What are things going on in your business?
That's right. That's good.
Those are probably some great places to start.
Yeah. Answerthepublic.com is a great place too. So you go and type in your niche. Yeah. You love that one. That's great. It doesn't matter if you're a musician, an attorney, like go in there. You want to find out what people in your niche or interest field are talking about, go to answerthepublic.com. So number 2, okay. This is choose a compelling name for your podcast that captures the essence of your show. So what does that mean?
You do that?
Well, I know when it came to us picking, let's say, Media Monsters, we both like media and we're also monsters in the way that we work and operate. We approach it with that, not in a bad way, but we just have that energy. Like what's a monster? Like lots of energy, nonstop. It's, somebody who's voracious and that's how we approach media.
Here's a really important one. Create a consistent schedule for releasing new episodes to build a loyal following. So 2 things that we always talk about with clients is frequency, consistency, and they go hand in hand. You have to have both.
It's so important. Here's another podcast boss tip. Make sure you invest in great sounding recording equipment. And again, we've talked about this before, I think, in Launch Your Podcast in the book. Depending on the type of podcast you're doing, if you're doing a man on the street type of thing, or you're picking up the atmosphere, let's say you have a travel podcast and you're going to, road to Spain and you're out in the streets with the vendors and you're going to a bullfight, that's different. But if you're going to have a studio quality type of presentation and you invest, make sure you invest well, buy high quality items. So, and we've got all those inside of the book too. So like Rode NT, great microphone, Sennheiser, great microphone. Oralex, the wall foam, you can even use the egg crate foam from Walmart and put that on your walls to dampen the sound.
Right.
So
better quality audio, better experience for your listeners, and it keeps them coming back.
That's right.
All right, here's the next one. Choose a hosting platform that offers reliable and affordable hosting plans. There's so many out there. Simplecast, Libsyn, Bcast, Buzzsprout is another one I just heard about this morning.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot. You have a lot. And here's the thing. We never purport to be the experts and know-it-alls. We'll never, ever tell you, yep, we know everything, because no, we don't. We know, you know why? Because right now somebody's just getting ready to launch their own podcast hosting platform this very day, this very moment that we're talking about this. That's how fast technology is moving. So lots of options. Okay, the next one is going to be promote your podcast on social media and other online platforms to reach a wider audience. So what does that mean? The main platforms you should be on: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Period. And Podbean is not a bad one either. You might want to go and do some research on that, but there are a lot of social media platforms you can be on. Pinterest, put a graphic up of your podcast, put a link to your podcast inside of your pins, right? Etsy, that's another one. You can go in there and there are no rules. Whether they think it's dumb or not, it doesn't matter. Get the word out. The more people you can tell, the more networks you're in, the better it is for you.
That's perfect. Tell it to them so much that they don't even think any other way than, why isn't there another episode out yet?
That's right. And why am I not getting it in the mail? I want it in my mailbox.
Yes, just send it to me. All right, here's the next one. Collaborate with other podcasters or guests to bring fresh perspectives and new voices to your show. So if you have a show that has guests, bring them on. Here's a real pro tip that goes along with this one. Do you have a Dream 25 list? Who are those 25 clients you want to work with? Invite them to be a guest on your podcast.
So smart. It's like a business card. Your podcast is an extension of your hand. It's the handshake. Yeah, I love it. Okay, next one. Edit your episodes carefully to remove any background noise, awkward pauses, or mistakes. Now this, again, unless you're doing like a theatrical, when I mean theatrical, they're actually, multi-person podcasts that are out there. So almost ensemble. It's like they call it ensemble podcast. So let's say you've got actors and actresses and male and female voices, and maybe even have sound effects. But if you're just doing a straightforward like business podcast or a monologue, make sure you don't have, trains flying over, unless that's part of your episode. You're like, hey, I live in Chicago by the train tracks, and you're going to hear a train every 30 minutes come through. Okay, that's cool. We can expect that. At the end of the day, when we're talking about background noises, it might be fans blowing directly into the microphone. It might be pops and clicks, or the yard guy, those. I don't know why they haven't been able to figure out how to make quiet lawnmowers outside of electric, but that would be a good thing to kind of remove from inside of your audio.
That'd be perfect. And that goes right along with the next one, which is use music and sound effects to add interest and excitement to your show. So after you get rid of all of the nonsense and the negative sounds, add some ones that actually enhance it. Sometimes if you're going to give like the same sort of content always in the same time period, make a little sound effect so like people know that that's coming. Like you will actually train their brain to think like, oh, here's that boss tip that's coming in their episode, and they hear this sound, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's perfect. The next one, we talked about microphones already. I already threw out a couple of examples, Rode NT. But one thing you should think about, like some people still record their podcast on the phone. No problem. Okay. Do that if that works for you. It's going to take you a little more to edit them in the background because the microphones are so sensitive. I mean, think about it. If Amazon Echo or Alexa know where you want to shop before you know it, they're probably listening to your conversation. So very sensitive microphones, but in studio, you can get a high quality one. You don't have to have the perfect one. My first microphone that I had was, it was like $35, $40. It was when the Blue Yetis came out, and I bought it dirt cheap on Amazon. So the main thing, get started, grab the mic as you go through the process and can afford, according to your budget, buy a higher quality microphone.
Because it will get better. All right, here's the next one. Research your topics thoroughly to provide valuable insights and information to your listeners. So be prepared, be ready. I think this also not only goes if you're putting on a solo sort of episode, but also if you're going to interview someone, do a little research on them. Have good questions, know a little bit about their background so that as you're into that conversation, you're not surprised by things, and or you can contribute to a conversation, not just someone asking a question and someone giving an answer.
That's great advice, Jeremy. Such great advice. And you can always hit them too with something different, from the side, a side question that they've never been asked before. Next one, engage with your audience by responding to the comments. And especially on your episodes, especially on social media, a lot of people believe that, well, I've got to go in and post and make this wonderful, post every single day. Yeah, it's great to post at least once a day on social media channels. However, where you get more weight for the algorithm is the response, the comments. I see Jeremy all over the place. He is everywhere. He's like omniscient. He's like Jesus, God, and then God's second favorite cousin. Like they're everywhere. Holy Spirit just showing up. That's what you want. You want a very omniscient type of presence on social media. One way to do it, respond to the comments. And you build your community that way, make friends. The more accessible you seem and are, the more people you're going to have that want to be in your community.
It's wonderful. All right, here's the next one. We're over halfway through. Experiment with different formats and structures to keep your show fresh and interesting. So this could be as simple as do a solo show and do an interview. That could be the very easy version. The other thing you can do is do some quick hit things. Just come in and do some rapid fire, not so monologue-y, just like get in, get out, make it simple. It changes up the monotony, especially if you have a podcast that maybe is like a daily podcast. So 5 days a week, they're hearing you. Change something up, give them something, a little different flavor once or twice, and just see what happens.
Would you recommend like an audio or video rage room episode?
Oh, I think I have a client that I'm going to recommend that to.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, that's perfect. It would be great to break up the monotony. People would be like, I've never seen that side of you. And you'd be like, well, now you have. I got it out of my system. We can proceed.
That's right.
Okay. All right. The next one, we are on to create a website or blog for your podcast to provide additional resources and information for listeners. So there are lots of landing page creation sites. It's not a bad idea. You could even do that inside of Facebook, across the social media platforms. You usually want to have ownership and control over it. So it doesn't matter if it's a website, if it's a blog, just you need a landing page that's completely separate that allows people to go to find out more about you. Linktree is also a good option as well too. So if you want people to know more about what you do, and because they're like, I really like the person on the podcast. Okay, that's great. That's social media asset number one. You have to think about a podcast as an asset. It's a real estate asset on the internet that people can find you, but you need to have something else for them to go to. I really liked what you said on episode 5. How do I learn more about that? Well, great. If you have that website page set up, they'll be able to find you and they might learn, oh, you're a candle maker. Hey, that's great. You vacation in Hawaii. Oh, you have 18 kids. That's a wonderful thing, right? So I don't know anybody that has 18 kids. Haven't met them yet.
9 is the most I know.
Of course, the Midwest, right? It's like, good old fashioned values, buttermilk and lots of kids,
Right. Farm hands and baseball teams. They go hand in hand.
That's right. One serves the other. I love it. All
right. This goes right along, I think, with what the previous one was, but develop a strong brand identity for your podcast to create a recognizable and memorable brand, right? Give something for people to come back to that they want to come back to, make it memorable so that no matter where they are, they're just like, oh yeah, remember that Media Monsters episode where Jeremy and Danny just didn't even communicate and they totally flubbed up the whole beginning? It was wonderful. What two amazing, authentic human beings.
Tell me how you feel about that, Jeremy. Let's go through that. And see if
feel vulnerable today, and it's Friday.
Let's unpack it. Yeah, it's it's great.
That's for a later episode of Media.
Yeah, that's another episode, unpacking your stuff. Okay, here we go. Use keywords and SEO strategies to optimize your podcast for search engines and improve its discoverability. If you are hearing this, make sure you email, because I don't have it right in front of me, but there is a keyword search finder. You can do it inside of Google's got them, Amazon's got them. You want to find out what the latest trends and topics are. There's a platform I use called Gram2 or Gramto. I think it's Gramto. I would say Gram2, but it's great just for Instagram. You want to know what the hashtags are? You can go in there and schedule with those. But with AI and the onslaught of it coming through, you can even go into ChatGPT and say, all right, here's my niche. I'm in podcasting. What would be the top 33 hashtags I would use for podcasting? And boom, it's going to spit it out. You don't have to overthink the process. You don't have to look at the pricing and the monthly. Just go in and utilize the free tools that are available. It'll get you further than you were before. So it's a great place to go. I always say too, line up with somebody who's got a lot of traction in SEO. You want to know the best way to get SEO? Make tons of videos and post them up everywhere. SEO rankings, they push you to the very top organically because video ranks the highest out of anything. So
There's a little video hack for you.
sorry, that was like 3 pro tips in one. Okay.
Jeez. We're not done yet.
No.
All right. Here, I have 2 left.
Okay.
Choose guests who have interesting stories or unique perspectives to add value to your show. I think we talked about this a little bit, but what if you brought somebody that was on that was controversial to what you normally would talk about? What could that do? That could spark a whole sort of conversation. It brings a whole new network of people or listeners into your space that maybe wouldn't listen to it, but came with that person that might be controversial, or maybe they have parallel views, but you guys approach something different. So it gives you another opportunity to attract a new type of audience that you didn't have before.
You know, I love that. And when I realized that TV wasn't really about that, I got upset and I decided not to go into TV because I went to radio and TV school at the same time. But I didn't know, they didn't teach you about the agenda. You had to learn the agenda after you got in there. I have not seen anybody to date have a guest on that would be fair and objective, right? And let it sit as it is. Like, hey, what do you think about this? Well, I think everybody should be burned to death and they should die, right? There's not that. You can hear there's like a certain rhetoric or diction associated with, no, I'm going to convince you. This is me trying to program you. If you watch the news and TV, everybody talks like this. Hi, we're all cousins and we have a certain resonant tone that we use. Pay attention. I'm sorry. I got my tinfoil hat on that one. So you got me amped up this morning, Jeremy.
The soapbox going this morning, Dane.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Plan your episodes in advance to ensure smooth and seamless flow of content. Now, if we had planned ours a little bit better, then you would know that it was nice and seamless this morning. So, but do it. It's a good practice. Back in radio, I planned all of my shows out the morning before and I had a template and a framework. So if something happened that was more compelling, I would just switch out the benign story with something a little more compelling. So that could be a fire, or it could be a national tragedy, or it could be something that was fantastic. Maybe the loss of a celebrity that we loved, right? So use that, have a certain flow and energy, have a starting time and a stopping time. It's very important. Sometimes people can get into that habit where they're like, hey, I think if I just talk more, it's going to be better. No, you'll know it's long enough as long as it's compelling. When it stops being compelling, that's when your show ends. But having a plan of action is a great way to do it.
All right. Create a call to action at the end of each episode to encourage listeners to engage with your show and provide feedback. This one people forget a lot. You have to tell people what to do. Probably a better way is to be like suggestive about some opportunities that they have, like sharing and liking and subscribing, kind of like to this podcast, or join our Facebook group. Yeah. Those are simple things, but people need to hear them consistently over time. They won't take action the first time. It takes 7 to 10 times of them hearing that enough to realize I should take an action, not even the action yet. And so you have to keep planting those seeds. And sometimes planting them throughout your episode is a good idea as well.
Right. Think about this. We're all charged. We're all powered, right? So we need to have our batteries charged. And that charging connection comes from your voice and what you say and how you say it and the frequency at which you say it. So if you want people to do things, invite them to come with you, like Jeremy said, consistently, because like some of us are hard-headed. It's like trying to, plow your way through concrete with a toothpick. You got to keep whittling away. All right. Final one for today. Podcast boss tip. Invest in marketing and advertising to attract new listeners and grow your audience. This is important, but there's 2 ways to do it. So you can use your time, attention, and energy. I would start organically. You get a lot of traction organically. You get higher qualified traffic. The people that are in your DMs, your connections, everybody that you're friends with, everybody that follows you, those people are already a pre-qualified group. So why wouldn't you create content just for them to start out before you start running dollars to it? Just my thought. Okay. There are different strategies in social media. There are different strategies as it pertains to finding lookalike audiences, uploading them into Facebook, and them going, hey, we're going to find an audience just like this to advertise this. So there's a lot of split testing required. That's where you get really scientific. If you weren't great at science, you might not like this, but it never hurts to be friends with a social media manager or somebody who's a social media expert, especially as it pertains to running ads. Tons of quality content out there on running ads are the best way to get attraction and attention. One thing I'm going to give you right now is absolutely free. Take some time, record one video every single day. It can be 30 seconds to a minute on a topic. All of these tips that you just heard, they're all recorded in a very short format, 14 seconds or less. Podcast boss tip number 1, we give it. Podcast boss tip number 22, we give it. And guess what? We can take those and put those and recycle them in our stories over and over and over. On Facebook, there's one piece of content. Instagram, there's 2 pieces of content, right? TikTok, there's 3 pieces of content. So I just did 3 times the amount of work in one shot in 15 seconds. Think about the power of that. Do I really need an ad budget? Yeah, if I want to get to the thousands, 1,000,000%. But be conservative. They will take your money. Make sure you understand and know the ads game well enough so that you don't burn your budget and just throwing away money. So that's all I got. I think we're tipped out today.
That's it. It was compelling enough that here is where we're stopping the train.
That's it. We're going to have to. We're going to have to. We appreciate you tuning in today. And we're going to do what we just told you earlier. Make sure you are connected with us on Facebook at Media Monsters.
Make sure that if you're listening to this via audio, that you like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Media Monsters 1111, so you can watch the video episodes, so you can see all of our interactions and how much fun we have on this episode.
Yep. And don't forget to get a copy of our book. It's like $1.99 if you're on an e-reader. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Launch Your Podcast. And Jeremy and I put this together, and we talk about some really cool things in there. We also have a course too. So if you want to launch your podcast, you can go to monumentalvoicemedia.com.
Check it out today. Thank you all. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your investment of it.
We'll see you soon. Be a media monster. Rawr.